All right, Eric Neller here with More For You Now, and I am here with Bill from Well Done One Kid Homes in Ironbridge ADUs, and he is our local MVP of the day right now. So, Bill, why don't you tell us a little bit just about your backstory? Tell me about yourself and about the companies that you own.
Sure. Yeah, nice to see you, Eric. How you doing today?
Great, thank you, sir.
Good. Good. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Yeah, my background is about 30 years of real estate investing. I used to fix and flip about 35 homes a year in the Tampa Bay area. And then after the downturn in the real estate market in 2008, I moved my business more into new construction and started building what I would call net zero energy affordable homes. So we live in the Sunshine State here in Florida. Might as well use the sun to power our homes. And then with a passive solar design, we were creating brand new construction that had no electric bill. And so did that for a number of years. But I've always been in the affordable home space. I've always looked at value, and being an investor myself, I looked at it as, okay, how do I get the best cash on cash return? That's the name of the game, right? Using leverage in real estate with financing or buying property at a lower price, and then figuring out how to maximize that value of that property. So that's what we've done. And then a few years ago, I started looking at, I use different types of construction, everything from brick and stick and wood. And I started learning more about steel frame construction and came across Johnny Lordy, who is the founder and president of Well Done One. We've known each other for a few years, and then he's had to make some changes in his organization, and we got together, decided to team up together and bring out, further expand Well Done One across the U.S., Canada, and the Caribbean. And then just recently, we launched the new brand IronbridgeADU, IronbridgeADUs. That's a product that is built in our factory in Texas, and we can ship that throughout the U.S. and Canada, the Caribbean as well. And we build both modular, predominantly backyard ADUs or accessory dwelling units, tiny homes, and then also tiny homes on wheels. So, and also on floats for that matter. So that's a pretty exciting. We just launched a couple weeks ago, and just got the website out to the general public. So we're pretty excited about that opportunity.
Okay, let's take this opportunity to show everybody what we're talking about a little bit. I'm going to share my screen and share your website so we can take a look at a little bit of the ADUs. One second here. So I'm going to come on to the backyard studio, I think, here.
Okay, yeah.
There we go. So this gives people a good idea of what that might look like, whether this is, I think, a big use of this people relate to is like a game room type of outpost, right, for the youth. And it goes the other direction in age too, right?
Yeah, exactly. It really could be a variety of things. I mean, it could be the she shed, home office, yoga studio, gym, even like a little pool house. We have a couple clients that in Washington State have building a couple of these for their pool area. So like a nice changing room. I've seen people convert these into a sauna and plunge pool, and I have some clients now that are adding golf simulators and F1 simulators to this and making it like their adult game room.
Yeah, high-end game room.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, and the nice thing about that particular product is there is no permits because it is 120 square feet. We're able to expand that based on certain areas. You can go up to 200 square feet without a permit. Most of our units are larger than that, and people want to maybe use it as a nanny flat, a granny suite, an elder child, parents getting older. They want to have them at home, but not in their home. So that's really where we're seeing a lot of the tiny home trend going. And many states are adopting the new laws and policies under the guise of affordable or attainable housing. So we're seeing a big trend in Southern California where property prices are astronomical. The cost of construction is astronomical. The cost of land is super high. So a lot of people are taking their existing single family home and adding a backyard ADU or tiny home for a variety of reasons, even short-term rental income, which I'm a fan of, because now we can take every single family property, and not only true in California, but many other states as well, even in Florida, and add a backyard ADU, and now you have a two-family unit. So you've increased to a multifamily value, an additional income stream if you decide to go that way, or a guest house when friends are in town, what have you. So super exciting that the rules and the laws are changing in our favor being investors or people that have a real estate asset that maybe they want to figure out a way to maximize that.
So I'm going to pause on that just for a moment and leverage what you just said. If somebody was looking to get into that short-term rental space, or they had current properties that they were either using part of or using part-time, they would be able, depending on where they're at, be able to add one of these in, and basically they could, if it wasn't a full-time place that they had already, they could make a full-time single space, or they could double the capacity on their short-term rentals of what they currently have.
Correct. Yeah. There's HOA restrictions, of course, but based on the site and the land and what's permitted by the municipality, they absolutely can increase it. And even in certain markets like San Diego, you can add up to 5 backyard units as long as you have the space.
Wow,
So
that's
we're really
amazing.
seeing this become more and more of a trend.
That's got to be a whole lot easier than fix and flip or bring up an environment if you're going to use it for the short-term rental space, right?
Exactly. I mean, my number one investment strategy right now for starter investor or maybe somebody that has some single family rentals is, rather than clear land and try and build infrastructure into that land and maybe put a couple of tinies on there, which is not a bad idea, but it's a long, arduous process with getting the site prepped and permitting and development and making sure the land is zoned correctly. I mean, you're talking a year or two. So most people don't realize that. And then bringing the infrastructure in, water, sewer, electric, roads, that kind of stuff, that is a really long, tedious process and not fun to go through. But when you can take a single family residence and all of a sudden pop a in the backyard or put a tiny home on wheels, because there you don't need permitting if it's on wheels and it's classified as an RV in the state of Florida. Now you can have three units producing income versus just one with the traditional single family home. So really exciting opportunity for investors now, because as I said, they can take a single family and turn it into a multifamily value without necessarily having to start fresh with raw dirt and try and develop that land.
And I can see from the options here on this model that you could have somebody that's a completely DIer, or you guys will have them per belt. Is that true about all the sizes? Like, should I look at some of the other options here?
Yeah, you can pull up like the modular option there. The modular unit is more of a complete build that's built in our factory in Texas. We can totally customize it based on size and different roof types. So some people love the usable rooftop, other people want more of a traditional roof. And then you can totally customize the interior to your personal taste as well. So that's one option, is the modular. And then we have what we call the weather tight kits, and that's more for that's maybe handy, or they're a general contractor and they just want the shell, and then we deliver the shell, and then they'll finish off the interiors with their plumbing, electric, and their ultimate finishes. So that's obviously a more affordable option as a way to go, and for people that are looking to save some money on their labor costs, because materials are a constant across the U.S. Labor is always the variable. So labor in Florida versus South Florida, or Central Florida versus South Florida versus San Diego, Colorado, it's all different, right? And it's all different depending on what's going on in the world and the contractors we're talking to, because I'll talk to one guy 4 months ago and it's X price, and then today it's X plus $100 a square foot, Y price, and no other reason than he can, right? So this way, with the modular, we're able to control the cost in the factory, control the labor cost, and our pricing includes delivery and setup. So that's really, really strong, because very few modular companies offer that as a service. They're usually responsible to the customer to go out and find a local contractor to install it. And also delivery is extra and craning is extra. But for the DIYer, this is a perfect option because they know what they're doing. It comes somewhat pre-assembled, and then they just finish it off in their leisure.
And then here, I'm going to stop the share real quick and ask a couple follow-up questions there. I know from us working together, when the information shift changed over to buyer's power, right? They're out there looking for information. And of course, the number one question that everybody asks about whatever they're buying typically is, how much is that going to cost me? And
Right.
the string of things that you just said create those variables that go into it, where the only true answer, unless you had so many different points of data in real time that day, is it depends. And then let's talk about it, because tell us a little bit about the entire process, because you offer more than just these structures. You'll look at everything from the feasibility and the land and the permitting. You have solutions for every step of the way, but it's a dramatic range based on what you just said there. So going from somebody who wanted to putrol something in on wheels to somebody that had picked a piece of property out but hadn't purchased it yet, that could be complete variables for the same space depending upon what state or whatever too, right? So
No, absolutely.
just walk
Yeah.
us a little bit through that process. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So a lot of people don't own the land yet that contact us, and they're thinking about their project. They have a dream. So we always say that it starts with the site, right? So everything starts with the site, and we do what's called a feasibility study or a feasibility report to find out what you can do, what you can't do, what the restrictions are, your setbacks on the property. Is there any floodplain concerns? Those things. And it also gives a costing estimate. So at least you get a ballpark of, okay, I want to build this 1,000 square foot unit on this piece of property in LaBelle, Florida. I need to know exactly what I should be budgeting, right? Because I have a certain budget in mind, or I don't know what I don't know. So really that's where the key is. It starts with the feasibility report. We also design and customize everything in house. So if you have a SketchUp of your favorite barn dominium design, and you're, man, I'm going to put my toys on one side, I'm going to make a living space in the other. This has always been my dream. We can take that idea or that SketchUp, or maybe you saw something on Pinterest, and we can take that and recreate it and design it and personalize it totally to your specifications, your family's needs. And then we walk that all the way through with the site and the site plan. And then that is really the precursor that leads us into the engineering and the permits. So we really try and take somebody from, I don't know anything and I want to get started, walk me through it, hold my hand, all the way to permits being issued and construction getting ready to get started. We handle all of that in-house, just try and walk somebody through that process because it is a long, could be strenuous process.
Yeah, I just wanted to point that out for people. They may not know what their stage they're even in. And
Right.
so when somebody's looking at something just based on size or construction or materials, there's so many other variables that one of the most cost-effective ways to find out is to get on that 15-minute call with you. Give them their information when they book. So that gives you enough information to know where they're at in the stage and physically where they're at. And then that 15 minutes could save them an old Geico tagline, right? That 15 minutes could save them hundreds of hours and tens of thousands of dollars. So that's
Absolutely.
I wanted to make sure that we pointed that out.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Let's talk about some of the projects you told me recently that have been standing out. So we've got a lot of what the consumer might use for their own property and some of the short-term rentals, but there were some specific verticals within wineries was one, and there's another that you're talking about within marinas, some spaces there that are showing up as good for these.
I appreciate you bringing that up, but we're excited that our first series of modular units, as I said, we just launched this company a couple of weeks ago. So the first series of units are going to a winery in North Texas. So 3 smaller models that are going to be sitting around a pond, and they have a usable rooftop deck, so you can sit up there, have a glass of wine, take a look at the pond, and enjoy yourselves, and not worry about having to drive home because you're going to be staying there for the weekend or a few days. So super excited about that project. We're in the process right now of constructing those and getting ready to ship those out. They'll be delivered by September for the fall wine season. So that's going to be an exciting one. And then years ago, we had the idea of taking tiny homes and putting them on floats. And it's a very popular investment type vehicle because they rent out well for short-term vacation rentals. Not uncommon for a unit in the right location with the right view to get $6, 7, 8, $9,000 a month or more on maybe $150,000 to $175,000 total investment, and then whatever the monthly is to keep it at the marina. But that's another project we're working on. We're really excited about because that's kind of been a long time coming. I've worked on that for a while, and now we have a vehicle that allows us to not only build those units, but put them on the pontoons and get them in place and rent those out. So that's a great opportunity for investors. And then one of my good friends and former partners, company, they're offering it as a tax shelter solution for high income individuals to offset their annual income through IRS 179 code. And because those modulars or those tinies on wheels count as machinery with the IRS code. And so they can take a dollar for dollar deduction off of whatever the expense of those items are and finance them. So they're financeable as well.
So those are three really out of the box potential partner scenarios there. The wineries, the marinas, and CPAs who are looking for unique tax shelters. And
Absolutely.
I've got a great network of CPAs to introduce you to. I think he's
Great.
really going to like it. So I'm glad that you brought that up again. Let's talk about more traditional partners, because I always like to put our pros together and say, okay, who else should be there? And I just use an example and say different scale of the business, but a guy who's going into a house or gal as a handyman is great to spot things that are inside the house that might be good for somebody who's doing work inside a particular house, right? I imagine in addition to investment groups and those kind of things, that there are other pros that go on site, or that obviously the builders. And who would you like to connect with to get your ADUs in front of the rest of your line?
Well, the contractors are a great opportunity, whether they're the local handyman or fully licensed GC, because they're touching the customer all the time on a daily basis. And this could be another value add product for their portfolio. And then having that conversation, because a lot of times people are like, I want to add an addition. Well, California calls that a JADU, which means joined. So they count it as you can have a separate living space with a separate entry and a separate kitchen, which is kind of unusual as an addition. But that's becoming more and more common in places like California on the West Coast. And we'll see that trend as well in Florida. So the contractors are a big network for us, the realtors, the mortgage people, anybody in the real estate industry, honestly, home inspectors, anybody that's dealing with the consumer one-on-one and the homeowner one-on-one as well. To your point, people in the industry on the legal side, title companies, CPAs, that sort of stuff as well, because a lot of people are looking for ways to increase their income, reduce their debt, mitigate their tax consequences. And, real estate has always been a tremendous vehicle to do that.
Yeah, no, those are great ideas. They just have to know what are the right things that they should be looking for or asking. So you've given them a lot of great tips and hints there. If they're financially talking to their client and they know they need to reduce their tax burden, boom, there's an option right there. If they're on site and they know somebody is in that short-term rental, or they're talking about this place is getting too tight for us with the in-laws that just moved in. Any of those things that somebody's listening for, right, they would be great. And since you're set up as the manufacturer, you're a great partner for those folks.
Well, and we offer a dealer affiliate program that actually you're helping us out with as far as the affiliate side of things. So we'll pay, I call it a commission. I've been in sales commission my whole life, so I call it a commission, but an affiliate fee or dealer fee just for the referral too. So a lot of people say, hey, I don't want to sell these things. I don't know much about it, but I'm going to connect you up with the person that does. And just for that connection, we're happy to pay a handsome commission.
Well, out of the gate, you're seeing some good usage and growth right away. So just a little future casting over the next 12 to 18 months. Where do you see you guys want to take IronBridge?
We're already in the process of talking about expanding into other markets in terms of our manufacturing, expanding our manufacturing plant. The challenge with modular is getting to capacity of production. Right now, we feel we can produce 30 units a month pretty consistently, but based on a couple of calls we're having in the very near future, we could already be at production in a matter of by the end of this month. So we want to figure out a way to be able to continue to grow and do so in a mindful manner that allows us to control our cost, and especially on the labor side, because that's what keeps the prices of the units down and allows us to provide more affordable housing in many markets. I mean, that's kind of what I feel like I've been called to do most of my adult life, and I've always been in that space one way or another. So I want to really provide housing for people that want to have a simpler lifestyle. I think a lot of younger people are more apt to say, hey, I can work remotely and I don't want to be tied to a mortgage for the next 45 years. Older people say, I don't need the 4,000 to 5,000 square foot house anymore. I'm going to downsize. How much space do I really need? It's only the two of us, and maybe the grandkids visit once in a while. So I really like that space, and it seems to do well in good times and in bad, economically speaking.
Yeah, I keep thinking of all the different places for this, because we've been talking a lot about what happened in Southern California, obviously, and as far as I know, all those high end. I mean, there's a mix of properties that got just destroyed, right? But as far as I can tell, or what I've heard, all they've done is clear the top side out there. They're not ready. They haven't even gotten so far in 6 months to do anything out there yet.
Yeah.
So this is a great time and alternative to get in with the right people there. I guess the target is you have to go in the right level, because if you get too high up in the administrative side of things, then it gets hung up and nothing ever happens. And there's the action takers in the middle that people are really calling attention to it. So
Absolutely.
I would put the call out there as we're talking about this. If somebody is in that space and looking to help, or knows people that are at those different levels that can get some action going, it would be a great thing for them to reach out to you and have that conversation.
Well, and to that point, we're also networking quite a bit with developers. And I would say anywhere from small to mid-sized developers that are looking to either do a tiny home community, or they're looking to be in the affordable housing space and maybe provide housing options for what we call hometown heroes, the cop and the teacher, the nurse and the fireman, the vet, those kind of people, where combined incomes, they can still get a really nice high quality house, but it's not going to break the bank.
Yeah.
And an area that we're also really focused on is in that market and working with small to mid-sized developers, maybe looking to do 10 to 500 units.
Got it. I keep thinking of different people I'm going to introduce you to.
Great. That's why I like knowing you, Eric.
Yeah, it's great. Well, it's great to have these conversations. And I'm going to wrap it up with the one question that I ask everybody. And I kind of alluded to it when we talked earlier, but if there was what's the one thing that if that barrier wasn't there right now, that problem was solved, that everything would be so much smoother? Because we all wake up at 2:30, at least one night a week in the morning, and go, oh, if I could just get that taken care of.
Well, on the high level, it's bureaucracy, because, the wheels of progress turn slowly sometimes. And depending on the municipality, depending on the people working there, depending on what's going on in our world and the government. So I would say bureaucracy is probably the things that slow down the process the most, from both our side as well as the consumer side. And then more specifically in our business, you being in the AI space and working with small businesses, I think a lot of people are afraid of AI. I probably was one of them, because we all hear these horror stories of AI taking over the world. But I think it's another tool that we all can use, and working with your company. And it's been really a blessing for us to have things more automated, and for us to share information among one another and make decisions quickly, and take some of the preliminary answering the phone and getting frequently asked questions answered, taking that out of the equation, and then keeping us more organized on the back office side. I think that's really been a blessing.
Well, I appreciate that. It's been fun to watch it come together. I know there's leaps and bounds we're going to continue to make as things change, and we learn more about who your customer base is and how they want to interact, right? So there's that give and take, where we went through a couple of iterations of how much should we do or how much shouldn't we do. So in some cases, it's fine to have the voice AI pick up and talk to them about the food on the menu till they transfer to a live order, right? And in other cases, it doesn't make sense because there's just too many pieces of information, too many variables they really don't get, or the customer has to be patient enough in our Twitter 140 character world now. So you got to have a sweet spot right now where somebody can get to you, get some immediate answers, but more importantly, get some immediate attention. Because although you don't have to be on call and waiting for a live transfer within moments of somebody going to your site and asking for information. Your team's notified and somebody can get right on that. So I hope we keep finding, like, I just say, let's find the 80% of busy work and put the tools to work on that.
Yeah, and I just want to say further too that I really appreciate you personally because, if we do want to tweak something, you're always on top of it. You're really easy to work with. You set us up. It took a bit to get us going and work out some of those tweaks, like you said, but it's been an ongoing process. And that's one of the things I like about your company and working with you, Eric, is you're very responsive and always on top of it. And I don't know how you do it, honestly, unless you work 24/7, unless your AI is doing it for you.
Always find the 80%, but no, I appreciate that. You kind of get a sense that I'm lurking in the background all the time, right? Because when something
Yeah, I
pops
like
up,
that.
we jump on it. Thank you for that. It's very kind, Bill, and I appreciate the opportunity to work with you and the team. Looking forward to great things. And
We appreciate you.
any final thoughts for the MVPs out there today?
The only thing I would say is try and automate your business as much as possible. Take the mindless work out of the equation because it really is about being able to be an information provider and working directly with the customer. And that's where we make the most of our money, obviously. So if we can take kind of all that back end stuff out of the equation, or at least have it be more automated, because we can all spend all day, every day on paperwork and emails and those kind of things. But the reality is we want to be in front of our customers and engaging with them and giving them the service they need and demand. So I think that's the benefit of your company, is really setting all of those tools in place that allow us to do that.
Thank you so much. Again, appreciate you being on your local MVP, and we'll be talking again, I'm sure, really soon. Thanks, Bill.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric.